NABat grew out of the National Plan for Assisting State and Federal and Tribal Agencies for dealing with white nose syndrome. And within the plan, one of their goals was to have a monitoring system to determine the effects of white nose syndrome on affected species. As we started developing that plan for white nose syndrome, we realized that a number of other people who were dealing with bat issues were dealing with the same problems and needed to come up with a monitoring plan. NABat is important because bats are very important. They have been declining for a number of years, particularly recently, and we have not had a method to actually document changes in their populations, either declines or increases. Because bats range for a large area, some of them on a yearly basis can migrate thousands of kilometers. It's necessary to do this at a large scale. So NABat gives us the opportunity to look at bat population trends over long time periods and large landscape scales. We are talking regionally, so for example the Southern Appalachians, or even range-wide. So like the little brown bat has a range that extends from South Carolina up to Canada and all the way over to Alaska. So we will be able to look at those very large scales for individual species. We hope to have first annual reports on the status of various species, and then after we've collected data for a number of years, looking at trends in species. We hope that those data will be used by managers and policymakers to determine how we go about conserving and recovering bat populations. One thing that NABat will not tell us is what is causing those declines. We will have ancillary data, for example, changes in climate or spreads of diseases such as white nose syndrome or the proliferation of wind energy development, but we can't exactly tie in the declines to particular causes. But what the NABat will allow us to do is then hone in and start studying specific causes of these declines. Once we know those causes, then we can start to mitigate those causes. For example, if it's wind energy development, maybe start siting wind energy development in areas where bats are less likely to be than in areas where they're very, very numerous. If it's a matter of cave destruction or disturbance, we can go in and gate those caves and prevent that disturbance. If it's a matter of land use changes, then maybe we can start trying to make some connectivity or working with various agencies so that we have greater connectivity across the landscape that will allow bats, for example, to migrate between their winter range and their summer range. When we developed NABat, we wanted to get as much input as we could. So we brought in people who had experience with monitoring other taxa, as well as people who have experience monitoring bats. And we brought in people from a number of state agencies, from a number of federal agencies, USGS, Fish and Wildlife Service, National Park Service, Forest Service, Department of Defense, as well as the Canadian Wildlife Service. We had a representative from Mexico at one of our workshops, and also academia. So we wanted to get as much input and as much buy-in as we could.